The flipping jig is single-handedly responsible for catching more giant bass than any other lure in fishing history. But with so many different jigs and trailers available in the market, how do you make the perfect combination? Well, today I'm going to completely simplify it for you guys. I have 2 jigs and 3 trailers that'll cover you all year long from January to December. Let's get into it. The first jig I want to take a look at is the Eco Pro tungsten jig with a trocar hook. This jig is a really great flipping jig. It's got a tungsten head instead of a lead head. And the reason I really like that is because when you're tossing these flipping jigs around, most of the time you're going to be tossing it into rock piles, into brush piles, and you need that sensitivity to effectively get it over the branches without getting stuck. Moving down to the keeper, there's nothing super innovative here, but it's thick enough to help get over brush while thin enough to allow that hook to penetrate easily. When it comes down to the skirt, it actually has some really nice texture to it and tends to last a really long time. I want you guys to notice the color on this. So I always recommend the PB&J color. You can go with a green pumpkin, you can go with the black and blue, but pretty much 99% of the time, I'm gonna be fishing the PB&J color and just changing my trailer based on water clarity. The absolute best feature on this jig is the hook itself. It comes with a 4/0 trocar hook that's basically your super line thickness. You can fish this on a medium heavy rod or you can fish this on a heavy rod, but I've never had any trouble getting great hook penetration when it comes to this jig. Now let's take a look at the 2 baits that I like to pair up with the Eco Pro jig. The first trailer I prefer is the 6 cent stroker crawl. Now I really like the stroker crawl for its durability. If you're looking at a Yamamoto bait, typically those have a lot more salt in them and they tear a little bit more easily. I think when you're fishing on the end of a jig, you typically don't need as much salt, and that makes that bait a little bit more durable. So I can typically catch 4 to 5 fish on the stroker crawl as opposed to catching 1 or 2 on a Yamamoto bait. When it comes to color, I like to go with black and blue in stain water and green pumpkin in more clear water. The next trailer that I like to use is hands down the best bait to fish in the summer, and that is the Yamamoto Cowboy. The Cowboy has extremely large appendages, which does a couple things for it. It causes it to fall extremely slow down to the bottom, and a lot of times those summer bass are very lethargic. So if you can keep it in their face just a little bit longer, they're more likely to bite. Also, this gives off a huge presence in the water, so fish can not only see this bait, but it allows it to hunt them with their lateral lines as well. For colors, I go with the green pumpkin in clear water, black and blue in dirty water, and to any of my night fishers out there, I will say this is going to be the best bait you could possibly fish at nighttime. Moving on to our second jig, we have the Picasso Little Spotty Finesse Jig. A finesse jig is what you want to go with in the winter or when you're having a hard time getting bit on that bigger size jig. This is a ball head jig, which means it won't quite come through cover as well as the archy head jig, but it still does very well. And this is also a tungsten head as opposed to lead head. And the same reasoning is behind that. A lot of times we're throwing this in stick ups and we're throwing this around little rocky points. So we want to be able to have that sensitivity to be able to detect the bite and make sure we're not setting our hook into something we don't want to set our hook into. When it comes to the skirt, this does have the traditional finesse jig collar, which makes some of these strands stand up a little bit. And what that does in the water is it makes the bait puff up a little bit and look like a small bait fish or crawfish that's making itself look bigger so it does not get eaten. The keeper on this jig is really where this bait shines. It has a 3-wire keeper that does a couple different things for it. Number one, it makes it extremely good to come through cover. But number two, you can actually fish this on a little bit lighter rod and still get fantastic hook penetration due to this keeper. When it comes to the hook on the 3/8 ounce jig in particular, it's a little bit lighter wire. So what I like to do is I like to fish this on a medium setup as opposed to most of my other jigs I'm fishing on a medium heavy setup. Now I will say the 1/2 ounce version of this jig does come with a little bit thicker hook that you can fish on medium heavy gear. Now the only trailer I'm typically going with the finesse jig is the Yamamoto double tail grub. A lot of people really like a chunk style trailer in the winter, and those are fantastic, but I pretty much always stick with the double tail grub for a couple different reasons. The main reason is it falls extremely slow, just like that Cowboy, and I find a lot of times in the colder months or when the fish do not want to bite, keeping it in front of their face a little bit longer will help you trigger the bite. The next reason is it's just a really small profile and it has a very subtle action when sitting on bottom, especially when fishing it in current on the river. So as you guys can see, your flipping jig setup does not have to be complicated whatsoever. Don't go out there and waste a ton of money. Keep your arsenal really small and find those baits that work for you. Now I want you guys to comment down below, what is your absolute favorite jig and trailer combination and when do you like to use it? If you all enjoyed this type of content, I'm gonna put a video right here on the screen for you to check out. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one.